What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Welcome to Russia's two-front disaster show. On one side, you've got a battlefield where soldiers are trying to shoot kamikaze drones out of the sky with rifles, but not using regular bullets. Instead, Ukrainians came up with a huge innovation to make this extremely complicated task just a little bit more possible. On the other side, a decimated Ukrainian city called Mariupol is being dressed up with propaganda like it's the opening of a new IKEA. By the way, speaking about IKEA, they're not still operating in Russia. Two completely different scenarios, right? One screams innovation and desperate survival, the other rot and lies, barely hidden behind a curtain of fake reconstruction and weaponized nostalgia. Today we're going to discuss both. We will look at how Ukraine is using sci-fi style bullets to turn ordinary rifles into last-ditch air defense systems. And then we will rip apart Russia's Potemkin village narrative about Mariupol returning to normal, when in fact the city is gasping for breath, its people monitored like livestock, and its children indoctrinated like it is 1938. Let's get straight into it. Let's set the scene. Imagine being in a trench and suddenly you hear that faint mosquito buzz sound. It's not your imagination or a wasp, it is an FPV drone, small, fast, and built to explode right in your face. Welcome to modern warfare in Ukraine. Traditional air defense systems, too slow. Jamming, sometimes it works, sometimes these are optic fiber drones, which are completely immune. But what if you could just lift your rifle, fire a few rounds, and blast that thing out of the sky? Sounds like a video game cheat code, right? Well, it is not anymore, it is real now. Ukraine has green-lit a new kind of ammunition, anti-drone rounds for your everyday assault rifle. These are not just ordinary bullets, they are fragmentation rounds in 5.56x45mm, designed to shatter mid-air and spread death like a shotgun blast aimed at the sky. No rocket launchers, no specialized equipment, nothing. Just swap a magazine with those special bullets, aim your rifle, and, well, try your luck. Honestly, to be honest, it's actually better say here try your skills rather than luck. One single bullet hitting fast-moving drone is a miracle. Doing so using this new type of ammo is more about reaction and precision. So if you are fast and skillful enough, you take luck in your own hands. And yes, these rounds do work. At least according to video footage showing Ukrainian soldiers successfully hitting fast-moving drones in live testing. These bullets are loaded in regular rifles, CZ BREN 2, AR-15s, even AKs, nothing fancy. Your everyday weapons basically. No modifications are even needed. What's the goal? To give every infantry soldier a dedicated magazine with these rounds only. No need to radio command, wait for artillery, or hope an electronic warfare team is somewhere nearby. Just act fast and shoot. It's the war version of a fire extinguisher behind glass. Break only in case of deadly flying robot and eliminate the danger yourself. Meanwhile, on the other side of the front line, Russia is also trying to play catch-up. They are building their own anti-drone rounds, with test groups claiming fragment spreads of 25 cm at 100 meters distance. Not bad, kinda, let's acknowledge it, but still complicated if you're aiming at a drone the size of a dinner plate moving 70 km per hour. But that's still just the theory. No mass production, no proper distribution, mostly just hobbyists melting down metal in garages or stuffing 3D printed cartridges with hopes and prayers. But here's the catch. While the Ukrainian army is codifying these bullets for real combat use, Russians are still uploading YouTube videos of backyard experiments. The difference is that one side is innovating to survive, while the other is improvising because they saw somebody else do it. Now let's switch our attention to a completely different topic. Mariupol residents fighting Russian propaganda. Sounds like a reasonable thing to do for every Ukrainian on occupied territories, right? But Mariupol people take it to a whole new level. They have to. Because their home city has been invaded and occupied almost since the beginning of the war. But the resistance and fire inside never died. So yeah, let's talk now Mariupol. According to Russian state TV propaganda, Mariupol is, guess what? Healing. A phoenix rising from the ashes. They've got cranes, paved roads, repainted facades, everything is shiny. And for some reason everything also looks exactly the same. You would even think that they record the same neighborhood, over and over again and say these are different locations, but that's nonsense, of course. If Russian propaganda says something, it must be true, right? Right? Okay, and just don't you dare to turn around the corner, because behind every cleaned up boulevard is a building still half collapsed. And inside that, people living without proper walls, power, or even water. Russian propaganda influencers post gleaming videos of cafes reopening and schools filled with happy children, but reality is an entirely different monster. Ask any real Mariupol resident and you will hear exactly the same thing. It is a lie. One giant, grotesque, Soviet-flavored lie. What they call reconstruction is just window dressing. They patch one side of a building and leave the other to rot completely, it's still demolished. Bodies were cleared with the rubble, like literally scooped up and dumped into trucks like debris. Civilians buried in silence so they would not ruin the aesthetics of the latest Kremlin broadcast. And let's talk water now. You know what locals are calling it? They call it Coca-Cola. Not for the taste, but you guessed it, for the color. You open the tap, and if the tap even runs, and you get this piece yellow sludge that even after boiling looks radioactive. One day it flows, 3 days it doesn't. And that's not infrastructure, that's collapse with a PR manager. What about electricity then? On and off like a bad joke. Medications. If you're diabetic, you might as well just start writing your own will. Insulin is either unavailable or criminally overpriced. Grocery sales are a roulette. You never know if you find what you need, and even if you do, it will cost half of your monthly pension. And let's be clear, these are not the outskirts. This is the heart of what Russia claims to be a quote-unquote liberated city. But the Kremlin does not care, because for them Mariupol is not a place, it's a billboard, a movie set, a prop to sell their fairy tale of Russian rebirth. And if that billboard needs a fresh coat of paint every week or so to keep the illusion alive, well, so be it. Just don't ask where the money came from or what is hiding behind those walls. If that's the attitude towards their most glorified city, Mariupol, you can only imagine the conditions of less popular cities, which names we never even heard. That is the prime example of Putin's Russian world. How would anyone believe in this kind of propaganda, some of you might ask? That is a very good question. Well, the Kremlin decided not to focus on current generation, but to properly raise the next one. That's right, we're talking about brainwashing little kids since their earliest years. I'm not even sure if that's legal under Geneva Convention, so please guys, double check me in the comments. But that is what Putin decided to do anyways. Let's talk about it right now. If you thought broken buildings and poisoned water were the war's parts, well guys, think again. Russia's occupation strategy is not just about land, it's about erasing identity, and that starts with children. Enter the new educational system in occupied Mariupol, where history is a fairy tale and geography is literally a war crime. According to new textbooks, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporozhye, Odessa, even Dnipro are already part of Russia. What about Crimea? That's old news, they don't even talk about it. That's given. These books treat the invasion like a liberation tour, no mention of dead civilians, destroyed homes or war crimes. Just Russia swooping in like Marvel superheroes to save their oppressed cousins from mythical Nazis. And then there's more. Weekly lessons are called conversations about the important things. Sounds cute and noble, I guess, in some way, right? Like something you would have in kindergarten, except instead of talking about sharing toys, they teach that Russia rescued the region from Western degenerates and Ukrainian terrorists. What about teachers who refuse to participate? At best, they are fired, threatened. In some cases, they are replaced by imported staff straight from the Kremlin list of approved loyalists. Victory Day parades are now mandatory. Kids dressed in Red Army uniforms and costumes, saluting tanks and singing about Stalin's glory. It is cosplay meets indoctrination, a throwback to the Soviet Union's most oppressive traditions, just now this time repackaged for TikTok. The schools are now factories for rewriting memories. What's the goal? By the time these kids turn 18, they will not even remember they were Ukrainians. And if you dare to say otherwise, if you resist or question the curriculum, you disappear. You're flagged. You're called a traitor. And your own neighbors might snitch on you. I mean, there should be some borders nobody dares to cross, right? But, well, it looks like nothing feels too immoral for Putin. But not everyone is buying the illusion. In fact, some are fighting back with whatever tools they have left. Let's talk about Mariupol's underground resistance. People who risk their lives every day just to say, we're still here. This city is still Ukrainian. These are not soldiers, they are shopkeepers, students, retirees, people with nothing but paint cans, leaflets and courage. By night they sneak through alleys to spray blue and yellow on ruined walls. They paste notes that say liberate Mariupol on lampposts and war monuments. You think this is small, insignificant, like what can it change, right? But try doing it under 24-hour surveillance with checkpoints every 5 blocks. And if you get caught, you're either deported to God knows where with nothing in your pockets, or you are sent straight into the trench for the next 0% chance of survival mid-assault. Well, as you can see now, it does make a difference. And it's not just symbolic. These people collect intel, and I mean serious intel. One man, for example, secretly photographs Russian troop movements and industrial equipment being repurposed for military use. And then he hides the photos in buried flash drives or secure apps, waiting for the next safe transmission to the Ukrainian intelligence. In some cases, they go even further. 2 railway sabotage operations have already disrupted Russian logistics into Mariupol. What's the method that has been used? Just simple arson. Sabotaging signaling boxes to stop supply lines. It may not hold the war, but it is enough to remind the occupiers that the land beneath their boots still hates them. But resistance comes with a cost. One former operative recalled seeing his own face printed on a Russian soldier's phone. He was just simply staying in line buying bread when he realized somebody had ratted him out. He fled through Belarus and back to Ukraine, alive, but changed forever. And those who remain, they live under constant fear. You delete your phone messages every day, you speak in code, you don't call friends in Kiev unless you want to disappear. One man said his neighbor was dragged off the street, accused of leaking military data. No proof, just suspicion, this was enough. And yet, they still keep going. Because this is not just about survival, it's about dignity. It's about refusing to vanish. It's about flipping off the Kremlin even when your hands are shaking. Everything sounds familiar, right? Just exactly what we saw happened in ghettos in 1940s, where Poles, Jews, Gypsies were resisting real Nazis, no matter how deadly it could be. Because they knew, if they stop, if they bow down to the oppressors, then there is no way back. The fire inside them will be extinguished completely, and there will be no one left to ignite it back. It is very hard to maintain this small flame when there is a ravaging blizzard around you with 100 miles per hour winds. But that is what gives people hope. That's what gives them the reason to keep fighting. And that's what keeps the resistance alive. And when there is hope and faith, everything is possible. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work and see additional bonus chapter at the end of each episode, it is uploaded daily on my Patreon, the link is down below. Thanks so much for watching, see you tomorrow.